Hello friends and welcome to the Cold War Prepper. Well, we're all rejuvenated. We're fresh back from our vacation. This was the first vacation we've had since Allison was about ready to go into the 6th grade. So she was 11, so 1989 plus 11, year 2000. She was about ready to go into 6th grade, so we went up to do the American history, because she was going to study American history. So we went up to Boston and did the Lexington Concord and the Mayflower and everything else up in the area around Boston and Massachusetts and the birth of the country. So we did that so that when she was studying about it in middle school, she would understand, this is real. But anyhow, so we just came back. We did 5 days. We left here, drove up to Tulsa, Oklahoma. From Tulsa, Oklahoma, we drove to Bentonville, Arkansas. And in Bentonville, Arkansas, we did a tour of the Walmart and history of Walmart and everything else. And they had the flag on display that was flying at the Walmart in El Paso, which is, if you draw a triangle in 1 mile on each leg, so you have where I grew up, the high school I attended, and then the Walmart where the shooting happened. And they had the flag from that shooting at the Walmart Museum. Then from there, we went on up to Branson and spent 4 days in Branson, and all the old shows that Helen went to 33 years ago, I'd never been to Branson before, weren't there. So, Dolly Parton and the theater, and Helen just interjected, or the theaters, and so like the Mel Tillis Theater, and a couple of them are being torn down or have been torn down because the person who sponsored it, made it the great country western area that it was, have passed away, and so that isn't there anymore. And I was talking to one of the people there from the Chamber of Commerce, and they said that what they're trying to do is they're now rebirthing Branson, and instead of being the country western getaway that it used to be, years ago, it's now becoming more of a family destination. They're getting a lot more rides, a lot more family style entertainment. We did catch a really, really good show that was the Motown sound, and it was a 3-hour history of Motown, and so that took me back to high school days. But anyhow, the purpose of this video is had the opportunity to get away from all this for 5-6 days, and of course we didn't do too much of the news. We were there to enjoy the times and not necessarily keep up with news or anything else. What do you think of my new patch? This is a nutrient survival patch. It used to be that I had the Punisher skull there, but FEMA now says that if you wear that, you are a what do they call it? Anti-American extremist, white. I forget what they're calling it. But anyhow, DHS, FEMA, or not FEMA, but DHS and FBI say that you're a radicalized white American if you fly that, or the Don't Tread on Me flag or anything else. Things that 5 years ago were considered historically patriotic are now considered to be anti-American. Go figure. Tell me that the government hasn't been politicized. But anyhow, what I'd like to do, kind of start this off, is just give you a recap. Resources that are available to you that I want to strongly recommend you go. Number one, if you're watching a video and the person makes a comment, do this, and don't give you the source, and say, go do the research yourself, and don't give you the source of their comment, or give you a place to go to find that information, ignore them. Anybody who's worth a grain of salt is going to tell you where they got their information and the background for it. So let me give you a couple examples. I'm going to have some links down below. I'm a member of TACDA, the American Civil Defense Association, and so they put out a biannual civil defense magazine that is just phenomenal. If the membership is free, the magazines are about $6 each, if I remember correctly. I'm going to put a link down below. I'm going to strongly recommend that you become a member of that. Then also I'm going to put a link down below because Jay Wimpy is the president. He's a professional engineer. He's being interviewed by one of my favorite channels, Jonathan and Kylene Jones of Provident Preppers. And so Kylene is the editor of the magazine, or a past editor, and Jonathan, of course, is on the board of directors advisory group for TACTA. They both have been officers in TACTA for a long time, and I think you'll enjoy that channel, number one, but I think you'll also enjoy this interview that Jonathan does with Jay Wimpy about expedient fallout shelters. Now, they're using the more current version of this book. So if you take a look, I paid $9.95 for it at AFES, which is the Army and Air Force Exchange Service in Goodfellow Air Force Base in 1981. And if you take a look here, it says that the recommended MSRP is $10.95. But if you look at the newest version, it's green, and it says that it costs $29.95. Look at how old the highlighting is, golly. And then, of course, you got the radiation decrease chart and everything else. I'm going to recommend get a copy of Nuclear War Survival Skills. It's a fantastic book to have. So earlier I did a video on radiation fallout, the difference between an air burst and a ground burst and all this kinds of stuff. And there were some people who disagreed with that. This is the source of all that information. I'm also going to put down below links to FEMA. And FEMA has some superior training online that you can take. And so that's all about radiological protection and fallout and everything like that. So I'm going to strongly recommend you review that as well. All kinds of fantastic free training. Some of the other things that I'm going to recommend for you is I have both the old brown version. I bought the newer version, FM 21-10, which is field sanitation and hygiene. So I did a video a while back about digging or having a luggable loo and expedient porta potties and all those kinds of stuff. All of my information came from that manual. I know I saw a review that said, no, this is how you do it with a travel trailer and a travel trailer dump and all this kinds of stuff. But we're talking about SHTF scenarios. So we're probably going to be more like the military and digging field expedient potties and trying to take care of things. And then how do you take care of it inside the house if you have to be sequestered for 2 weeks while the radiation, if there is fallout, while the radiation levels go down. So, once again, take a look at what's being talked about and, is the information that's being passed appropriate for the situation that you're discussing. Another book I want to strongly recommend is this one by Dr. Bailey. So it's Cold Times Preparing for the MIA. I'm going to always call it MIA because you get censored if you use this terminology in any of the social media. They say that's the end of solar cycle 25, or the beginning of solar cycle 25, and the associated MIA is all fiction, and so social media doesn't like you talking about that. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite channels has been kind of barred from YouTube because he was putting out information about that MIA. That was Ice Age Farmer. So I'd take a look. If there's any of the old Ice Age Farmer stuff that's still available to you, I'd say check that out. Another one I want to recommend to you. This guy is an ex-military physician, Dr. MD, and so he has a whole bunch of information about radiology, radioactive, and how it damages tissue and everything else. I'm going to link his newest one, which is basically the value of potassium iodide. So, he says the only thing it does is protect your thyroid against thyroid cancer. And so, all these things about, it's a radioactive protection drug. He says, don't believe it. And I believe him. That's what I was taught as well. He's an MD. He knows what he's talking about. So I'm going to refer you to him. So with that, just say, gosh, it's nice to be refreshed. It's nice to be home from vacation. We went to get the girls. We had to put them in a doggy boarding home for 6-8 days, and they're happy to be back as well. So they're all over us. You should have seen them. I've never seen two dogs run as much as they did in the backyard. Just happy to be home. So anyhow, with that, No, I'll get into that later. Bible study this morning was fantastic. My Bible in a year, and unfortunately, Protestants don't get that because they only have Esther 1 through 10, because what happened was the first 10 books of Esther are written in Hebrew, then the last 8 books are written in Greek. So when Martin Luther broke away from the church, during the Protestant Reformation, he said that wasn't valid to be in the Bible because it was written in Greek and not in Hebrew, and so he threw it out. But anyhow, that's where the whole Hebrew tradition of the Feast of Purim comes from. So you had the Passover, which was the Jews being brought out of Egypt, and then you have Purim, which was when what was his name? I forget the king's name of Persia, and he owned all the land between India and Egypt, or Ethiopia. India and Ethiopia is how he describes it. And but anyhow, he released the Jews from bondage in Persia, and remember he took over after the Babylonian invasion, and so he released them to go back to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple, the second temple. And so you miss all that if you don't have verses or chapters 11 through 18, which were written in Greek. And as a matter of fact, if you take a look at it chronologically, the book of Esther, the Greek actually, the book we found in Greek actually predates or historically chronologically precedes chapters 1 through 10, which are in Hebrew. Interesting stuff. So anyhow, it sure is great to be back. I watched a fantastic video this morning by Prepping by Faith, which is one of my favorite channels. I watched one last night by Prepper Dog, and he's one of my favorites as well. So all I can do is encourage you to watch a whole bunch of videos, support these people. They're doing fantastic content, and make sure you have sources of information. Even me, if I don't give you my source, if I don't provide a link for where I'm getting my information from, consider it BS. Don't take it to be fact unless somebody's telling you where they're getting it from. So with that, remember, we're all in this together so we can come out the other side together, because be kind, polite, and respectful to each other, because togetherness is the key. Take care. Bye-bye.